between your two selves. And you need to think about how to adjudicate that conflict, and it's actually not at all obvious, because if you think in terms of time, then you get one answer. And if you think in terms of memories, you might get another answer. Why do we pick the vacations we do is a problem that confronts us, with a choice between the two selves. Now, the two selves bring up two notions of happiness. There are really two concepts of happiness that we can apply, one per self. And so you can ask how happy is the experiencing self. And then you would ask how happy are the moments in the experiencing self's life. And there are happiness for moments is a fairly complicated process. What are the emotions that can be measured? And by the way, now we are capable of getting a pretty good idea of the happiness of the experiencing self over time. If you ask for the happiness of the remembering self, it's a completely different thing. This is not about how happily a person lives. It is about how satisfied or pleased the person is when that person thinks about her life. Very different notions. Anyone who doesn't distinguish those notions is going to mess up the study of happiness. And I belong to a crowd of students of well-being who've been messing up the study of happiness for a long time in precisely this way. The distinction between the happiness of the experiencing self and the satisfaction of the remembering self has been recognized in recent years. And there are now efforts to measure the two separately. The Gallup organization has a world poll with more than 500,000 people have been asked questions about what they think of their life and about their experiences, and there have been other efforts along those lines. So in recent years, we have begun to learn about the happiness of the two selves. And the main lesson, I think, that we have learned is that they're really different. You can know how satisfied somebody is with their life, and that really doesn't teach you much about how happily they're living their life, and vice versa. Just to give you a sense of the correlation is about 0.5. What that means is if you met somebody and you were told, oh, his father is 6 feet tall, how much would you know about his height? Well, you would know something about his height, but there's a lot of uncertainty. You have that much uncertainty. If I tell you that somebody ranked their life 8 on a scale of 10, you have a lot of uncertainty about how happy they are with their experiencing self. So the correlation is low. We know something about what controls satisfaction of the happiness self. We know that money is very important, goals are very important. We know that happiness is mainly being satisfied with people that we like, spending time with people that we like. There are other pleasures, but this is dominant. So if you want to maximize the happiness of the two selves, you are going to end up doing very different things. The bottom line of what I've said here is that we really should not think of happiness as a substitute for well-being. It is a completely different notion. Now, very quickly, another reason we cannot think straight about happiness is that we do not attend to the same things when we think about life and we actually live. So if you ask the simple question of how happy people are in California, you are not going to get to the correct answer. When you ask that question, you think people must be happier in California, if say, you live in Ohio. And what happens is when you think about living in California, you are thinking of the contrast between California and other places. And that contrast says in climate. Well, it turns out that climate is not very important to the experiencing self. And is not even very important to the reflective self that decides how happy people are. But now, because the reflective self is in charge, you may end up, some people may end up moving to California. And it's sort of interesting to trace what is going to happen to people who move to California in the hope of getting happier. Well, their experiencing self is not going to get happier. We know that. But one thing will happen, they will think they are happier. Because when they think about it, they'll be reminded of how horrible the weather was in Ohio. And they will feel they made the right decision. It is very difficult to think straight about well-being, and I hope I have given you a sense of how difficult it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a question for you. Thank you so much. Now, when we were on the phone a few weeks ago, you mentioned to me that there was quite an interesting result came out of that Gallup survey. Is that something that you can share, since you do have a few moments left now?
Sure. I think the most interesting result that we found in the Gallup survey is a number which we absolutely did not expect to find.